So, I mean, if you think about it, our bodies need food, and it's not just calories. It's not just empty calories. The food is the basis for what our body needs to run on. We've had conversations about calories in and calories out, so it's all about the weight. But what is the food delivering, right? And so the food has to deliver nutrients, it has to deliver vitamins, and it has to deliver antioxidants and things like that, the tools that the body needs to remain healthy. The body has this tremendous ability to heal itself. If we were to hit our arm on this table, we might get a bruise, right? But over time, the body would take care of that and the bruise would go away. But what if we hit our arm on this table 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner? You see what I'm saying? It would never heal. And in fact, we might end up with a Band-Aid at first, and pretty soon we might have to chop off the whole arm because we never allow the body this chance to heal. Well, our diet plays that role, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, in giving our body what it needs to actually use those antioxidants to repair itself.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm Dr. Sal. I'm the medical director for the Lifestyle Medicine Institute and the CHIP program. And I want to welcome you all. And we are going to have another fabulous show today. I'm really blessed to be able to do this show because I get to interview such wonderful people. And through the work that I've done with Lifestyle Medicine Institute, the CHIP program, the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, I have met the most fabulous people that live literally all over the world. And we're blessed to have Dr. Shurney on the show today. And before we actually get into the topic, let me read you his bio. Despite the fact that he is very young, he's got a tremendous bio that I have 2 pages to read on today. Dr. Shurney is the current president of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. He's also the chief medical officer and senior VP of clinical affairs for Food Smart by Zapango. This is a San Francisco-based digital health and wellness company that focuses on enabling healthy eating through this program called Healthy Eating Made Simple. He is the former chief medical director and executive director of global health benefits and corporate wellness for Cummins. And prior to Cummins, he was the chief medical officer of the employee health plan for Vanderbilt University and Medical Center. He held 2 appointments as the assistant clinical professor for the Division of Internal Medicine and Public Health, and also as adjunct faculty for Owens Graduate School of Management. Other positions before that included senior health policy strategist for the Division of Governmental Affairs for the biotechnology company Amgen, which I'm sure a lot of you already know, and he was the chief medical officer for Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Michigan. Additionally, Dr. Shurney served as the chair of the Tennessee Diabetes and Prevention Health Improvement Board, and he was actually appointed by Governor Phil Bredesen. He was the chair of the Business Strategies Committee for the CDC and for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. He's also the co-author of a book called Integrating Wellness into Your Disease Management Programs, which obviously we all need to do. Dr. Shurney is a graduate of Loma Linda University and Howard University College of Medicine. And as I mentioned before, he's the current president of ACLM, and he's double board certified in preventive medicine and lifestyle medicine. Whew. Took a while to go through all that. So welcome, Dr. Shurney. I am pleased to have you on. Nice to see you again, sir.
Well, thanks for having me, Sal. This is great. It's a pleasure to be on your show, and I have done a lot of very good things with the CHIP program through the years. And so I'm really glad to see that you're now connected with that program and carrying the banter even further. So that's great.
Well, thank you so much. You know, we're living through this world right now that has changed so much in the last year with the pandemic. And everyone is obviously so afraid of what's going to happen if, God forbid, I get the virus. So today's program is really to talk about our immune system and how we actually strengthen our bodies to be well. And I love the opening segment and the visual of banging your arm 3 times a day as we take in food, which really is a great visual to show how, food can either damage us or help us. So help the audience understand a little bit more about what you were leading in on.
Well, I mean, I think the takeaway point is that there are things that we can do to help our bodies, but there are also things that we can do if we just get out of the way.
Right.
So, sometimes the body really is this remarkable organism, and it can heal itself. I mean, that analogy of banging your arm on the desk, you get a bruise, but then the bruise goes away. The body has a mechanism to kind of take care of that. But if we keep interfering with that healing process, well, then the body just can't do that. And we do that all the time with various aspects of our health, not just, banging our arm, but the food that we eat, the lack of sleep, the lack of exercise. All of these things can actually wreak havoc with our body's ability to heal itself. And so I think we have to keep that in mind. We're talking about immunity today, but the other thing I would say is that everything is connected. So you can't have a healthy immune system if the rest of your body is not healthy. You can't have one without the other. And I think we're seeing that, and we recognize that more than ever today, because we know that with COVID-19, for example, obesity, type 2 diabetes, those with heart disease, those with pulmonary disease, they have higher rates of getting the disease, but they also have more severe outcomes. And that's because their overall body is not as healthy. So therefore their immune system is less healthy, because again, it's all connected. And so therefore we're seeing, more severity and more death within certain populations that have those comorbid conditions.
So what can people do? The things that you mentioned, we obviously talk about that in all the ACLM programs, the lifestyle medicine programs, the CHIP program. It's almost like putting all those things together into this foundation. And you mentioned nutrition and exercise and sleep and stress. So what can people do to really take hold of even identifying the risk factors that they have before they start to set out on a plan, if you will?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, it goes back to identifying things that are very obvious to us. I mean, are we overweight? Are we not getting enough sleep? What are our eating habits and what are we eating? There's such a thing as macronutrients and micronutrients. And it used to be that we just all thought about calories, the macro calories and how much protein and carbohydrates we had. But now we're really getting into the science at a deeper level, and we understand that it's the micronutrients that we really need to pay attention to. Because again, that's where the antioxidants are, that's where your vitamins are, and we really need to eat a diverse, diverse types of food, whole foods. So again, one of the things we say in lifestyle medicine that I'm sure many of your guests have already talked about is that we should eat the rainbow. We should eat a variety of colors, because that's where we get our antioxidants and a lot of our nutrients. Now, when I say that, sometimes when I'm speaking, I always add, and not Fruit Loops, because we want real food to get our colors, and that's how we get that. And there are a lot of ways to kind of think about that. But Sal, I think to keep it simple, it's things like that. Just getting your colors and eating a variety of foods, and foods that are really whole foods and not processed foods, because the processed foods can really damage our system in a lot of ways. And then before I get off the topic of nutrition, we can certainly talk more about it. I just want to throw in that added sugars. Sugars are probably one of the most harmful things we can do to ourselves in terms of our immune system. I mean, it causes problems in other areas of health as well, but for immunity, the effects of sugar are pretty profound. They occur pretty quickly, within minutes after ingesting sugar. It really causes our white blood cells, the cells that we need to fight off infections, to really become dysfunctional. And so we really need to keep that in mind and sort of avoid the donuts and the cakes and the pies and things like that when we're trying.
Yeah, and I think that point really can't be overstated, because really when we look at the top 3 killers in most developed countries, cardiovascular disease, cancer is number 2. Unfortunately, the pandemic is now number 3. all of those
Yeah.
illnesses are so related to sugar intake and how sugar really wreaks havoc in someone's ability to recover from those illnesses. And so much of the things that we talk to our colleagues and patients about are the lifestyle-related diseases, and how do we avoid them? How do we treat and reverse them? And it really is, it's really important. So help the audience understand a little bit more about that, especially in relation to what the micronutrients do, either harmfully or on the helpful side to your immune system. Because I think people need a plan that hopefully we can give them by the end of the program today.
Well, I think probably the most important thing to realize is again, a whole food diet. So cut down on the processed foods. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is that it really needs to be plant-based to the extent possible. Right. And the reason we say that, and the way I'll speak about this, is that if you look at the things that we need to have health and also a healthy immune system, it's really back down to the ABCs. Mm-hmm. And where I'm going with that are the vitamins, right? We need vitamin A oftentimes in the way of beta carotene. We need B vitamins. We need C. Vitamin C is very important. Mm-hmm. We need E and D. And when we look at where that is found in the diet, those elements are primarily found in fruits and vegetables. Mm-hmm. And then we add to that things such as fiber, and we know that the fiber helps our gut microbiome, and we can talk a lot more about that as well, but we know that that's essential to general health as well as immune health. And then, of course, we throw in some things such as selenium and zinc, mm-hmm. Those kinds of things that we also know that are important to our immune health. But again, where the predominant of those things are found in fruits and vegetables. And so if we're not getting adequate fruits and vegetables, we're just not getting those things in our diets. Right. And people might think that they can just supplement their way to health. But we know there are many studies over the last few decades that have shown that supplements just don't do the same job in promoting health as getting these nutrients through a natural source, through a whole food source. And part of that is because how the nature has packaged those nutrients with other nutrients that help with its absorption, helps with how it's actually delivered to the body and to the cells. All of this is at a cellular level. Mm-hmm. And just give somebody a single nutrient, it doesn't have the same effect as giving it in this package, that the body is really designed to receive it as. Mm-hmm. And so you can't really supplement yourself, and you really need to go through those sources. And so it's the ABCs. A lot of it's pretty simple, but people just sometimes forget that.
It is simple. It brings me to the thought of what Dr. Ornish says. There's not one disease for diabetes and another disease for heart disease and another disease for cancer. It's the same. The treatment rather. It's the same treatment, if you will, the same diet, if you will. We eat a whole food, primarily plant-based diet. We're eating lots of vegetables and lots of fruits, and we're dealing with all of those illnesses with the same nutrition program. So it really is simple. And, the whole concept of the blue zones, I'm sure that in the blue zones, people don't count calories and they don't worry about what they're eating. Am I taking in enough protein and enough fat? And it's very simple. If you do it that way and you listen to what you just said multiple times, eat whole foods. It's what we really try to teach people, and then add on all the other things that we can do to stay well. So that's phenomenal.
That's exactly right. And Sal, people actually do understand this because sometimes I'll ask people, I'll say, what if you have your child or your grandchild comes to you and says, Dad, all I want to do is eat cake and ice cream 3 times a day. How many people would let their child eat cake and ice cream 3 times a day? And what would they say to that child? They'd say, no, that's not healthy. I'm not going to let you do it. So people understand that food is powerful in keeping us healthy. It's just not the calories, because certainly cake and ice cream will give you plenty of calories. Right. But it's not going to give you the other things that we need. And so we really have to be a little more thoughtful about what we're putting in our stomach all the time. And that's not to say that we never have cake and ice cream, but we have to, do it in the right amounts. Yeah.
Right, exactly. What is that statement? Overfed and undernourished. That's what we are in so many developed countries, and it's so true. And even the guy that did Super Size Me, where all he ate was fast foods for an extended period of time, he got so sick in a short period of time. He was getting in enough calories, but obviously the wrong calories.
Well, that's a perfect example of processed foods.
Mm-hmm.
What processed foods will do to you. Yeah.
The impact of other lifestyle factors on your immune system. So we know that, I believe that if we really look at the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, and I really try to focus on all of those with the patients that I see, but after we look at the foundation, which I really do believe is strongly supported by nutrition, all the other factors, the other pillars of lifestyle medicine, how do they play into the role of immune strength?
Well, that's a good question. I think nutrition is one of the foundational pillars, obviously, but the others play a pretty important role as well, particularly tobacco and alcohol. We know can really, do some things to our immune system. We know that alcohol, for example, can affect our B vitamins. Mm-hmm. So again, it comes back to nutrition. But so these things are not good. We obviously know that tobacco, the smoke, can actually affect our ability to get things out of our respiratory system. That weakens the respiratory system. So we want to avoid those things. That's pretty obvious. I think probably one of the lifestyle pillars that, other than nutrition, that people don't think a lot about, and that is sleep. Sleep is a major factor. There are these cells that play a role in our immune system called cytokines. Mm-hmm. And one of the roles, the way I like to think about cytokines is that, if you think about an army, right, you have this army of cells that are ready to attack, the virus or the bacteria, whatever that infectious enemy is. And so you have this whole army that's mounted to do that. And so you have the troops, and then you have the generals. And the cytokines are kind of like the generals. They kind of tell the other cells what to do, where to attack, where to go. And what they have found is that if you don't get enough sleep, your cytokines become dysfunctional. It's almost like they become drunk. And so they don't know where to send the troops, right? And by the time the troops start attacking each other, so it's just chaos. And so that's what happens when we don't get enough sleep. We think when we don't get enough sleep, our brain gets cloudy and we don't think right, which is true. Our cognition is affected, but it actually occurs at a cellular level too. And our cells don't know what they're doing either. And of course, we don't want that with our immune cells when we're trying to fight these diseases. So all of these things are important with lifestyle, but those are some of the ones that people probably don't think about that much.
Yeah, it's true. The mindlessness that we have when it comes to lifestyle in and of itself, and probably the hundreds of choices that you make on a daily basis that impact your health are really amazing. If you actually did, if you jotted down all of the things that you're doing on a daily basis that impact your health, you would be amazed at the end of the day to see how many things you did that impacted your health in a negative way. And what could you change tomorrow that would lead us in a more positive direction? So how do we help our friends, neighbors, family members, patients and such really develop a good plan? Because hope to God, we're all praying that this pandemic goes away as soon as possible. But if we have to deal with another pandemic or another major health effect sometime in the near future, how do we really develop a plan for ourselves that we could use on a daily basis that really makes sense to your immune system?
Yeah. So, I think we need to pay attention to those pillars. Another one of the pillars is how we deal with stress in our life. And so obviously this whole pandemic has caused a lot of stress. People have lost their livelihood. Not only are they fearful of the virus, they don't want to go out in public. And so therefore people are suffering from loneliness. They've lost some relationships. And so we need to keep in mind of that too. And I think people just need to sort of figure out what they need to do within their family and their circle of friends to stay connected,
Right.
to develop techniques in terms of meditation or prayer, whatever their source of relief might be to cope with stress. Certainly exercise is good, but sometimes we're limited with that because you can't go outside, or you can't really exercise with a mask. You can't go to the gym. But if you can get outside and distance yourself, that's one of the things that is very important. The sunlight as well, just being out in nature, is very good for our stress levels. So I would add to the things that we've been talking about, how do we manage our stress? There's recent literature that says that loneliness is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Wow.
That's impactful. And we just talked about how tobacco hurts your immune system. So imagine now, because you're lonely and you're isolated, the equivalent of 15 cigarettes a day that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the power of technology right now, the ability of us to be able to do this presentation together, we're on opposite sides of the country, is really helpful in that regard. And, you can take your smartphone and you can FaceTime someone, and you and I can actually go on a walk together. So I think we have to do things in the confines of what we're dealing with nationally and globally with the pandemic to really bring some normalcy back to life, because things haven't been normal for so long. But, staying on the positive side, my daughter was in virtual school up until today and went back to school today, and it's a new school for her. So I said, just try to be positive. There's lots of great things about new ventures and all, and we're living a new time in life. So I think if we figure out how to deal with it and stay on the positive side, that certainly improves your mental health for sure. So, medications and steroids and vaccinations, this is something that we're hearing about so much now. I think your points are almost to say that we can deal with things in a very natural way, as you described the body healing itself. What's the problem with eating foods that may not necessarily be as healthy as we want them to be, with what happens to our circulatory system?
Right. So that's a good point. So you always think about, what is the function of the blood, or what is the function of circulation? Mm-hmm. One is to, get the blood to what we call end organs. The cells need nutrition. And so the blood takes oxygen and nutrition to those cells that need this to survive. And so nutrition plays a double role. We just talked about the macro and the micronutrients that once the blood gets there, it has to deliver what I like to call the payload. Right. And so what's the payload of that blood? Once it gets there, it has to have something to it. It can't just be, sugar, cake, and ice, from cake and ice cream. It has to have some meat, right? But the other piece of it that's really important is that if we load ourselves up with fats, fats actually can decrease our circulation. There have been studies that have shown as much as a third within, minutes to an hour of eating a fatty meal, you decrease your blood flow by about a third. And so not only if you're eating this junk food is the payload diminished in terms of its value, but you can't even get the blood to the cell because the circulation has been diminished. And so when we eat those kinds of things, excuse me, it can have a detrimental effect. And in fact, we know that a lot of green leafy vegetables do just the opposite. So instead of slowing down the blood flow, it actually increases and promotes the blood flow through something called vasodilation of the vessels. And so that's what we really need to do with our food. And so we need to think about that. And again, it's not that you have to give up all of these things, but you just have to be mindful of what balance. Everything is about balance, and what balance of these nutrients and food types you're getting into your system, so that you get the proper circulation. And if you think about people that already have issues with circulation, the last thing they need is to slow it down even further by eating these fatty meals. Yeah.
Right. And Michael Clapper, has a segment in one of the CHIP videos where he actually shows 2 vials of blood, one from an individual that had as his previous meal a cheeseburger and a milkshake, and really looking at the blood and the serum and how cloudy it is with all that fat floating in there. I think it's a great visual to help people understand what happens just from one particular meal. And as you mentioned, if I'm banging my arm 3 times a day, or if I'm banging on my stomach 3 times a day because of bad meals, that really affects your health in general. What about the microbiome? How does the microbiome impact health and immunity in general? Because I think that's a topic that a lot of people are hearing about for the first time, although it's been around for a very long time. We're learning a lot more about it now.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a new area of research that we're learning more about every day. So I don't know if everybody knows or anybody knows everything about it. Mm-hmm. But we are learning that it's very important. And what we know is that the gut microbiome is comprised of either good or bad bacteria for the most part. Mm-hmm. And the good bacteria thrive off of fiber that we get from fruits and vegetables. Right. And they really need that to thrive. And if they don't get it, then they sort of die off and they're replaced with these bad bacteria that really don't serve us very well. Mm-hmm. And this has been related to all sorts of health aspects, including not just immunity and some of the things that we're talking about, but including obesity. Right. And that if you have the right makeup of your gut microbiome, again, they thrive off of fiber, then mm-hmm. you're less apt to gain weight, even on the same amount of calories. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that is pretty exciting when you stop to think about it. But where do we get this fiber? Again, from these whole foods, natural mm-hmm. foods that we've been talking about. I challenge people to look at where do we find natural fiber in our diet. Mm-hmm. And it's in fruits and vegetables. So again, the same things that deliver the payload in terms of the antioxidants. I mean, again, on average, there's 64 times more antioxidants in plant food than there are in animal foods. So mm-hmm. where are you going to get your antioxidants? You got to go to fruits and vegetables. Where are you going to get your fiber? You got to go to fruits and vegetables. What foods are low in cholesterol or have no cholesterol? Fruits and vegetables. Right. What are high in vitamins that we talked about before, and minerals? Fruits and vegetables. So again, it really says, and none of this is controversial, right? No. Where are you going to get the things that you need in your diet? It's fruits and vegetables, and so that's where we have to go. Yeah. So
if we would have only listened to our grandparents and our parents that said, eat your fruits and vegetables, eat that broccoli, it really is amazing to see that was and is the right response. I'm actually doing a presentation tomorrow down here in Florida to the FOMA, the Florida Osteopathic Medical Association. I've spoken for 4 years for them at their annual conference. And I have, believe it or not, I have 79 slides in my presentation that I have to deliver in an hour, which is going to be tough. But every single disease that I'm talking about, whether it's cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, cancer, all relates back to the same thing that you just said. It relates back to what we eat, because that really is the solution. It's amazing that food is the solution to so many of the health problems that we all deal with on a regular basis. We're running out of time, but I want to see if there are a few questions, because we have a lot of people on the line, and it's interesting. We have people literally from all over the country, including, I think there's somebody saying hello from the Philippines, from Barbados, from Los Angeles, Ohio, all over the place, Rhode Island. Dr. Deal is on the line. Hello, Hans. He's hey, Hans. He's always listening, which is great. Just looking for a question. A lot of people are saying hello. Would you speak to hydrotherapy and its impact on enhancing the immune system? Now that's a question. I'm not sure that I can answer that, so I'll throw that one over to you.
Wow, that's a great question. That's a deep thinker who asked that question. So
very much so.
And I don't claim to be the expert on this either, but I will tell you that hydrotherapy was something that, or hydrothermal therapy, is really the thermal piece, the heat aspect of it, that is thought to boost our immune system. And so if you think about what happens when you get an infection naturally, you develop a fever. And that fever actually is therapeutic. It's your body's response to infection. And what happens, the fever actually activates some of your innate immune system. And it helps that innate immune system actually fight infection. And so you've seen some doctors back in the day used to induce fevers for that purpose. Now, obviously it can get out of hand and a fever can be too high and cause damage, but there's this sweet spot in terms of a fever that the body either generates or you induce, and it can actually promote the immune system and activate these cells. And so there are therapies where they used to do this back at the turn of the century when they didn't have as many sophisticated antibiotics and some of the things that we use today. It's kind of fallen away. People don't really use it that much because we have these new techniques, so to speak. But there's this technique that you use where you actually put a person in a bath that's very warm, actually as hot as they can stand it. And then you bring them out of that and you put them in a cold pool for a few minutes and go back and forth. You do it 3 times. You can do it in the shower. And that is really thought to supercharge the immune system. So they do that. And they've done some studies on, people in the Norwegian countries that, they get in the sauna and then they jump in the ice freezing cold water out in the ocean. And they find that their immune systems are pretty strong. And maybe this is the reasons why that is. So it's a fascinating topic. Again, I don't claim to be the expert, but there's something there, Sal. And so I really appreciate the person asking that question.
Yes, we'll say thank you to Ed Hoover. Ed, thank you for that great question. One more before we run out of time. Debbie says, we're eating right, and I'm having difficulty getting the teen outside and away from the computer due to online learning. She's spending up to 10 hours a day sitting. The school system needs to build in exercise time. Well, given the fact that we're living virtually right now, what suggestions do you have for everybody that's either at home working or at home going to school and really sitting down? Well, one of the things that I'm doing right now, I stand up for most of my workday. I have my stand-up desk at my home office and my other office. But what other suggestions do you have for Debbie and her teenager?
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. And if I were to take my camera and kind of move around, this is my home office, but it's also my gym.
There you go.
There's a treadmill back here. I have a standing desk here on the side.
Great.
And so what I try to do during the day is, if I'm on a call and I don't have to be, like this, I might be on the treadmill. And so you just find other ways to move and to stand and to get around. Because oftentimes, again, I'm just in the listening mode. I can put in my headphones and I can take my dog for a walk. So I do those kinds of things. So we just have to find ways to get up and about and not just be locked in, because this is not healthy if this is all we do all day long. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and I don't think that there's a reason why people can't go outside. As you mentioned before, if you're outside for a walk, and we had Darren Morton on last week's program, and Darren was talking about the greens and the blues that we're supposed to see every day. The green outside and the blue skies and the sunshine and all. If you can get outside and you're not in contact with too many other people, it's really a very beneficial thing to do for your health, physically and mentally. And I think right now we have to treat ourselves mentally more than anything. The issue, the question of the hydrotherapy came up. The thought in my mind was massage therapy to improve our health in general, and all the other things that we can do. The physical medicine aspects of health are really so beneficial. So there's lots that we can do to stay healthy. I think that was it on the questions. We're a little bit over time, but this conversation is so important, because I think what we try to do on the program is just help people to understand how they can stay healthy with the non-traditional ways. I think the medicine that we've practiced for so long has been so much about writing prescriptions and sending people for procedures and surgeries. But, as a summary statement, what would you say about the non-traditional things that we can do to be healthy?
Yeah, they're probably the most important things that we can do. I mean, obviously, we want to, protect others and ourselves by wearing a mask, by social distancing. But it's inevitable that the virus is going to break through some of those barriers at some point. Our defenses will be down. And so therefore we have to, empower ourselves to be able to withstand that when it happens, and then we're not overtaken by it. And so these simple things that we've been talking about in terms of diet and sleep and physical activity are also important. Right. And so don't underestimate the power of this. It's very important. And I just appreciate all the work that you've been doing on this end, and Dr. Deal on the phone and others, because this is really very important for people. And it's just something that's been overshadowed by some of the technology out there. So the simple things
absolutely. Yeah. We have to be diligent and not complacent, because actually on the news today, I was hearing that they're finding out now that people are becoming reinfected with the virus. So a message to not be complacent. The mask wearing is so essential, as you just mentioned, and social distancing. So we can do a lot of things without medications that really keep us healthy. And that is the goal. So, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. I appreciate you and all that you've done, and your leadership with ACLM has been phenomenal. I'm sure it's bittersweet to know that you're coming off and someone else is going on. But I have to thank you for all of your work and just being such a great champion and a role model for healthy living. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Well, it's been fun, and it's a pleasure. Thank you
so much. I want to thank the audience. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Next week's show, Dick Tibbetts is on, talking about another great topic of forgiveness. So thanks to all the people that are on the line. Thank you again, Dr. Shurney, and to Daryl Luddington, our technical wizard who keeps everything rolling for us. And God bless everyone. We'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you again. Bye.
Bye-bye.